let the little things go away. All right. Welcome to the Fall Book Club. My name is Maverick Evans, and I am here joined by David, and we are going to talk about The Most Dangerous Game. And also, if you want to follow David on Twitch, his name is Ironic and Iconic, and he's pretty cool. We stream together from time to time and talk about things and have awesome conversations. He's a cool personality, so if you'd like to join him, he streams games more than I do nowadays, and he's awesome. So, David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to talk about this story. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm glad that we have all the technical difficulties stowed away, and we can finally get to talking about the book. We're gonna crack one open to start the conversation.
Oh, I didn't know it was that kind of night. Okay.
Oh shit! I just got White Claw all over my stuff right now.
Oh.
It just got all over my keyboard. I've never seen one of those do that before. Oh, that's terrible. I have to clean it off with my shirt or something.
Oh my God. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse technical difficulties. Yeah, Maverick is just on his way. He's bending over into the closet currently that I can see on his camera, and he's on his way back, and he's got a paper towel, and he's about to clean the whole place up. All right.
So ever since the coronavirus, I have had to get one of these masks. And I don't know if you guys ever watch Naruto, but that's like a couple of the themes here on the stream. I really like Naruto. I have here with me an Akatsuki face mask. So if you guys, for those of you who know, you know. Right, I'm going to use this to clean off my monitor.
I unfortunately don't know.
You don't watch Naruto?
No, I didn't watch much growing up as a child. Other than SpongeBob, something like that. And then I still watch it today, and Trailer Park Boys. But
really, you still watch SpongeBob?
Of course. What do you mean? That's an adult show.
I mean, I'm not judging here, but
there's a lot of important issues going on in
SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. David, I'm gonna leave you in charge of the chat. Do you have an eye on the chat?
I do now.
Okay, cool. Because I'm like, I have to make my screen full in order for the stream to look proper. So.
Okay. Does the chat just show up where it says the Fall Book Club?
Yeah, it will.
Okay. All right.
It should.
Yep.
So, all right. So we're going to be talking about The Most Dangerous Game today, and this is a short story. So if before watching this video, if you're on YouTube right now, you can go and read it within like 30 minutes or so, 45 minutes maybe, or listen to it. You can listen to it all in 45 minutes, so you can definitely read it faster than that. And in addition to that, in the description below on YouTube, there will be timestamps and show notes for subject headings. There are no chapter headings in this book because it's a short story and there are just no chapters. But there will be subject headings. And at the end of this conversation, we will also be discussing the differences and just we're going to be talking about the movie versus the book. So we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to start in with a summary of the first part of the story as I remembered it. So usually what I do is I just read the whole story, and then I summarize everything that I can. And so this is what I have here. So the story begins on a boat making its way through the ocean with the crew intending to hunt big game like jaguar. Rainsford, the main character, has a short discussion with a man named Whitney, but about the possibility of animals having feelings and experiencing pain upon being hunted and killed. This is spurred on when Rainsford remarks that they are headed to the best sport in the world, and Whitney specifies by saying, best sport for the hunter, not the jaguar. So this is the part of the story where we get to see the main theme introduced almost immediately out of the gate. It's very transparent. They're not trying to hide it or sneak it in there nonchalantly. They're really just spoon feeding us as readers what they're trying to say with this whole story, and it's pretty easy. So, David, what did you think about this the story overall before we get into the small parts of it?
I really like the story. Like, I would have never guessed that the story was going to end up where it did at the beginning. I don't want to give it away until you finish summarizing it.
But. Yeah. I mean, it just blew me away. And the first time that most people have read this story is going to be in like elementary, like junior high or something like that. So that's grade 7 and 8 for you Canadians.
yes, us Canadians.
And so that's when you would have been first introduced to it, and that's the case for me. I read this in grade 8, and it was awesome. I remember it being awesome when I read it, but I wasn't old enough, I realized, after reading it a second time to fully take it all in. And reading it again, oh my gosh, I'm freaking blown away, man. I can't believe what was in this book. It was amazing. Yeah. I got chills down my spine. Like, it was just it really blew me away. And for us to start doing these short story discussions is exciting for me, because if a short story can really pack this much punch, I'm just, very excited to get into more short stories. And I think I have a few more on the list that we can choose from the suggestions that we have from people to do next. So yeah. This first part of the book, they just blatantly tell you, animals have feelings too, and the foreshadowing here is almost like immediate. And I don't even know if I want to like give it away just yet till we get there, but you kind of feel at this point in the story where you know exactly where it's gonna go. Like, that you kind of have an idea about what's gonna happen, and what to expect.
It needs a lot of exposition for such a short story.
It does have quite a bit of exposition, and like a bit of character building for characters that we won't ever see again in a few moments. So
that was
kind of weird. But yeah, basically this conversation, you immediately can tell that at some point the main character Rainsford calls Whitney a pansy for even considering the animal's feelings, and that he was gone soft and things like that, and that you kind of realize as the reader that Rainsford at some point is going to maybe change his position on this subject at some point in the story. And it's easier to make assumptions in short stories just because I think it was a Russian playwright's Anton Chekhov's rule of thumb with all of his stories was that you do not put a rifle on the mantle in the first act unless, of course, you were going to be using that rifle in the second act. So you can assume with these short stories the same rule of thumb is being used constantly, because there's just no room for mostly extra stuff. If it's in there, it's most likely going to be used later on. But I don't think that detracts from the story at all. I think it is still fine. So the next summarization is going to be when Rainsford then decides to stay topside while everyone else goes down below to sleep. He stays up to smoke his pipe while everyone goes to bed. Rainsford hears a gunshot in the distance through the thick fog of the night and somehow ends up falling overboard into the sea. I felt like this was a really goofy part.
Somehow. Wait, where's the actual sentence where...
I think he gets...
I just saw it.
Rocked off. Like there was like a big gust of wind in combination with like a heavy wave.
He leaped upon the rail and balanced himself there to get greater elevation. His pipe, striking a rope, was knocked from his mouth. He lunged for it. A short, hoarse cry came from his lips as he realized he had reached too far and lost his balance. So he was just trying to get his cigar back, or his pipe back.
What an idiot. Like, are you kidding me? He really did not. That was completely unnecessary, that entire thing. Him falling overboard into the sea, his whole fault. His fault, like, 100%.
See, drugs leads down a dangerous path.
Yeah, I think that's just so stupid. I did like the descriptions, though, in this portion of the story. Because it was pretty serene. I really like the whole idea, like the aesthetic of just, like an old-timey huntsman just going up top on the ship in the dead of night with the stars overhead and his tobacco pipe puffing away, and the breeze caressing and going through his mustache, like that. I don't know if he has a mustache, but
I'm a man.
Yeah,
I'm a man.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. Like I dig it. I'd like to be that way. But so once he falls over, Rainsford is a good swimmer, apparently, because this is going to be a really tough swim. He does the only thing that he can do, which is yell for help, but no one on the ship hears him. They're all below in the hull or whatever, and it continues sailing off without him. So he turns in the direction that he heard the gunshots and begins swimming that way. And then he eventually reaches the island, and he tiredly shuffles his way up the island into the center, and then finds lights. Goes toward the lights. What does he find at the lights? A huge ass castle. So he thinks it's a hallucination at first, but then obviously realizes that it's not. And I think, do you remember what kind of knocker it has on there?
Oh, it was like a gargoyle or something.
I think it was a big gargoyle. But that's like really cool too. So this is kind of where like the more actiony type stuff comes into play. Because at the first of the story, you kind of just think that it's like a regular story. I don't know. It's kind of boring. Like, I mean, it's obviously interesting, but there's nothing fantastical about it just yet. So, like, it was like unfortunate circumstance. The guy was an idiot, fell overboard. But then it gets really interesting whenever we have this like massive castle and manor with like huge doors and like a big gargoyle knocker that's like menacing. And then the next thing that happens is pretty interesting too. He knocks on the door, and then immediately, like whenever he knocks a second time, the door like flings open. And there's like this huge hulking man standing there with a big beard.
Yes. Big
Also,
boy.
how do you say his servant's name? How do you say this hulking man's name?
Ivan.
Right? Ivan? Is that the Russian pronunciation of Ivan?
Probably. I mean, that's what the dude said in the movie.
Yeah, but the dude in the movie had a terror. Like
Yeah.
I don't trust that movie at all anymore about anything.
Yeah.
So he's just there, and he doesn't say anything. And Rainsford attempts to explain his situation to this hulking bearded man. He doesn't say anything, and then very suddenly another man is walking down the spiral stairs and greets him by saying, I have read your book about hunting snow leopards in Tibet. I am General Zaroff. So, and he's just another Russian dude, and he kind of explains in this conversation that the big dude is very uncivilized and a bit of a savage because he's a Cossack, which I feel like is a little racist.
I actually didn't even know what a Cossack was.
Cossack is just like a specific kind of Russian.
Mm-hmm.
There's like Cossacks, and then like the communists made up one called the kulaks, which means poor peasant, or poor peasant. I think that is rich peasant.
I mean,
sorry.
To be fair, this was written a long time ago. Maybe there was some underlying unintentional racism.
Oh, I'm sure that they didn't like the Russians anyways at this point.
True.
So, but like, I don't know. I dig the Russian whole thing. It's kind of like not tropical, but like I don't know. exotic. Like this exotic man is coming down with like this thick Russian accent, and why is he here? There's supposedly like no one around. Now, in the first part of the story, did they mention about the island being spooky?
No,
that they were passing. They didn't mention it at all, did they?
No, he just said that he heard something in the distance, and then he went to an island, and then he saw a spooky house eventually. But the island itself didn't give off any like bad, I don't know, feeling, I guess.
Okay.
But in the movie, anyways, you keep going.
Yeah, we'll do the movie right afterward, because it's just like, it's not even worth it, honestly. Like, it's just so terrible. So let's see. So he's met this guy named General Zaroff, right? And he's a pretty cool dude. He's kind of mysterious and kind of creepy at the same time. But also, like, whenever I was introduced to Zaroff, I felt like I kind of saw him as this dude with a very nice goatee beard, and a very nice mustache, and he was kind of, I envisioned him as being a little heavier set for some reason, like had a little bigger face, and was very calm, and had like a pseudo fatherly nature, like not a true fatherly nature, but like kind of came off that way as like caring and like welcoming, and very like sure of himself. Nice guy. Yeah, he seems super nice. Like, honestly, he just seems
genuine man, like a genuine person.
Yeah, he doesn't seem anything but genuine at this point. So,
I still think he is genuine, to be honest.
I think so too. I think he's genuine from beginning to end, and yes. You'll realize what that means. What we mean by that later on. So Zaroff tells Rainsford that he should wash up and get a new set of clothes, which Zaroff, is it Zaroff or Zaroff? Zaroff. I wrote both here. He takes Zaroff's clothing before sitting down at dinner with the general. So the feast is pretty huge, and everything is of Russian taste, such as borscht. During their conversation, we find out that General Zaroff is not only an avid hunter, but a man who has committed his entire life to the sport. General Zaroff talks of how he almost lost meaning in life when he became bored with hunting, and how he needed to make it a challenge again. Zaroff tells Rainsford that he regained the challenge of hunting by importing his prey, the most intelligent and dangerous animal of them all: humans.
This is just ridiculous, how he said it. Anyways.
How did he say it?
He said, "I have invented a new animal." He said, yes. Wait. There is no greater bore than perfection. What did he say? Anyways, he basically said he invented a new animal, and he's like, yeah, just a human. And I was like, well, he didn't invent it. It already existed. You just deemed it not, deemed it an animal.
Yeah, all he did was just say, "You're no longer a human. You're an animal, and I will hunt you." Which I guess just makes him feel a little better about it, because he's like killing humans. So we realized that Zaroff, General Zaroff, is a psychopath. He's just crazy.
Yeah, but I still think that he was really nice, and I mean, yes, he's a psychopath, but he meant everything. He cares about the people that walk in.
Right. I agree, which is why I think we can classify him as a
sociopath.
Yeah, something like that. He's a there's a literary category for him. He's a villain, and just like in The Walking Dead with Negan is a lawful villain, right? And so General Zaroff is lawful in the way that he has a set of laws and rules that he has instituted according to his own moral code, and he lives for, and I guess in Nietzschean terms is beyond good and evil, right? He's like defined his own way of living. Yeah, there we go. So he's defined his own morals now, and he doesn't consider hunting humans wrong. He considers it a kind of game and challenge between the two, and he's fair. And I think that he does intend to hold up to his word whenever he, sets the stipulations. He says, here's the deal. This is the game we're going to play. And if it turns out this way, then you die. And if it turns out the other way, then I'll stay true to my word. So I think I can respect him for that.
Yeah, and then Rainsford's just like, yeah, what do I do? So what happens if I win? And then he's just basically like, no, you won't. Don't worry.
Yeah.
He's like, don't worry, you're not gonna win because I've never lost before. So therefore, I'm just gonna outsmart you. But like, I respect how much work you've put into your life in hunting. But I bet I can outsmart you. And then you see what ends up happening, unfolding.
Yeah, and that's what's really exciting too when you get to that part of the story is that you kind of start realizing that like there's going to be a mastermind challenge between the two of them, right? Because like we learned throughout the story that Rainsford, which is like the first thing that Zaroff says when he gets there, is that he's like one of the most expert hunters in the world, and that he's read Rainsford books on hunting tigers in Tibet and all kinds of things. And so whenever you find out that Zaroff wants to take Rainsford on a hunt with him to go hunt another human.
Yeah, just kill people.
Basically, yeah, he's just like, Zaroff is like, would you like to go kill people with me? Would you like to do this?
just straight up ask him, like, there's nothing wrong. Like, it's just like, yeah, it's just just pretend it's an animal. Just hear me out here. It's an animal. If you think it's an animal, it's an animal. And then Rainsford's just like, I don't know about this one.
Well, he's like, yeah, and obviously just like anybody, he's like made really uncomfortable because one, he doesn't know what to say, because if he's like really negative and like just like blatantly says he won't do it right then and there, then he's telling no to a murderer. So like what would stop him from just killing Rainsford?
Because I think he just like, it's just one of those like psychological things where you just like snap and then you pretend that it's like Norman Bates pretending his mom's still alive whenever whenever he killed his mom.
Yeah, like, exactly.
No, my mom agreed with me, it's fine.
Yeah. She said it's okay. Man. And so, well, there at that point in the story too, we get to see we see several calls of action as far as the story structure goes. So the first one was the general story structure, which is like regular life that the hero lives, which is like on his boat on the way to hunt big game like he always has, and then the disruption of that perfect life, which is forcing him into action. He's fallen overboard like an idiot, and then the secondary call to villainy by the villain is an invitation to join, the murderer club, I guess, and he denies it. So because he denies the invitation to go hunt humans, he then has to be hunted by the general. So it gets pretty interesting from there, and this is kind of where the meat and potatoes of the story are going to take place. And from this point on, pretty much, I felt like I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Yes, I was like, oh my, how is he going to get out of this? The island is probably really small.
Yeah, it must be pretty small. I think he keeps Zaroff like picked a small island so he wouldn't have to travel so far. Mm-hmm. So let's see. So of course Rainsford is outraged by such a murderous sport and requests to leave the island immediately, especially after Zaroff insists that Rainsford go hunting with him. The general eventually informs Rainsford that he will be the one hunted, since he refuses his invitation. If Rainsford can survive 3 days, he will be free to leave the island. Rainsford receives khaki hunting clothes, some food, a knife, and a pair of moccasins before he is set loose on the island to try and survive however he can. And I believe he's also set loose at night to have the advantage of the darkness. So, oh my gosh, this is terrifying.
Yes. He just ousted him.
Yeah. Like, I didn't even know. I was like...
Solo.
what is happening right now? This dude, I don't even know like what's gonna happen. Honestly, this was a good example of a story that has such good storytelling that you honestly have no idea what will happen next.
I sincerely didn't know. I didn't even know that he meant he was hunting humans until he said it, like literally said
explicitly.
it. Yeah, whenever he was like, "But you don't mean," and then I was like, "What does that mean?" It's like, yeah, he's like, "My dear fellow," what would he say? It's like, "I wanted the ideal animal to hunt. What are the attributes of an ideal quarry?" Answer was, of course, it must have courage, cunning, and above all, it must be able to reason. But no animal can reason, objected Rainsford. And then he's like, "My dear fellow, there is one that can." And then he's like, "But you can't mean." And I was like, "What does he mean? You can't mean? What is he talking about?" And then he's like, "And why not?" I was like, "What are they talking? What is the thing that's being hunted?" And I was like, "Oh wait, a murderer. Oh my god, that's people."
Dude, you would be Rainsford. Like he would say, "You don't mean," and he says, "I never joke about hunting." Like that old school like 1940s to 50s movie where they do that and you're like, "You couldn't mean," and they say, "I never joke," and they say, "Humans." That would be you.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. And the music hits hard. That would be you with like the big eyes like, "You can't mean it."
Like the camera just zooms into my face.
Yeah, I feel like this was, I mean, really just a story too. The way that it's written is very definitely older school, because it's just like laying on the story real thick, the drama real thick, for surprises and the characters' emotions and stuff. So he's out in the jungle. The hunt goes on 3 days in total, and each day Zaroff gets the better of Rainsford, but decides to let him live another day, since he decided that Rainsford was resourceful in his retaliation and his evasion tactics. So let's try and remember the first two. The first one, he evaded in the jungle and climbed up a tree. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and then Rainsford Zaroff, General Zaroff took off into the jungle tracking him. So despite the fact that Rainsford had done all these crazy lines running around trying to muddle up his track, Zaroff took
literally
one...
just beelined it straight to him.
Yeah.
Just be
Yeah, that's the perfect term for it. He did. He just A to B right there and walked directly to the tree that Rainsford was at. And this was one of those horror movie moments where the Velociraptor in what's
going
it
around
called?
the counter.
Going around the counter in what's it called? Jurassic Park. You're like, at any moment the predator will just see me and bite my head off. Rainsford is perched up in the tree, and Zaroff is down there with a cigar, and he walks right up to the tree, and then just before looking straight up at Rainsford, his eyes stop right below him, and then he looks back down, and he deliberately blows a smoke ring with a cigar up to Rainsford. And a big smile cracks up onto his face, and he very carefully turns and walks away back to his manor. So that was a bit of a psychological type game that the general played with Rainsford, trying to kind of very subtly, but not very sure, let him know that I know where you are, but I'm going to let you live. So I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I think the reason he let him live so many times is that he respected his resourcefulness, and he just wanted to see what else he could do so he could learn from it.
Yeah, I think so too, because I mean, at this point, the general is trying to just push himself more and more and see, what he can do and what the men that he's hunting can do too. So I think that's just the nature that the general has, which is push it further.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't just kill the person he respects the most in terms of hunting on the first night. I don't think he would do that.
Yeah, I think he had the opportunity, but he's just well, I don't want to end it here. Let's have some more fun. We have more time.
Because he knew he'd never get another opponent like that in his life.
Oh yeah, because I mean, first of all, what are the chances of an expert hunter washing up on your shore, like, and you're just the guy that like takes in men and hunts them? So yeah, this is like probably gonna be the. He probably understands that this is the best hunt that he's gonna have his whole life.
So you can't waste it on the first day.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so then what's the second? What's the second invasion that happens?
He makes a trap.
Oh yes, and I
Trap.
forget what kind of trap this is.
It's like some special like trap he learned in, I forget. He said like a specific country. This is gonna bother me. But he like learned a trap back in wherever he said, and then he used it against him, and then Zaroff was like, "Wow, haha, you think I didn't know about this? Like I didn't know about this trap?"
Yeah, yes. What kind of trap was it? It was a
Trying to find it.
something man trap. Um, But it was where you take a dead tree and you lay it on a live tree and then tie it up with like some kind of cord, and then whenever they walk by it, it'll like fall onto them.
Yes, he thought of a native trick he had learned in Uganda. He slid down the tree, he caught hold of a springy young sapling, and to it he fastened his hunting knife, with the blade pointing down the trail. With a bit of wild grapevine he tied back the sapling. Then he ran for his life. And then the hounds raised their voice as they hit the fresh scent. Rainsford knew, like, whatever.
Yeah, and so they
whenever he released the dogs.
Yeah. And then, so at that time, too, whenever they were walking, Rainsford goes and stays off a little bit of ways to try and watch his trap, and he hears the dogs stop. And then he realizes that his trap has been set off. But as soon as he continues walking, he sees the image, the outline of General Zaroff, and realizes that it wasn't the general that he had killed, but instead his servant Yvonne. So so it wasn't a total waste. You know, he still got somebody. And if you're gonna kill anybody, honestly, I mean, his servant Yvonne, not a bad guy to kill. Like, you should probably kill him at some point. So, like, good on you. That was great success. There's a guy, Lazy Dutch 3. Thank you for the follow. Hammered Man.
Oh, he's here. Oh my goodness.
Hammered Man. Thank you for the follow.
The sexy man.
I appreciate it, you guys. So let's go to the next one. So the third one, for the third escape, he manages to get tracked. Is this a quicksand now?
He set up sticks.
Right.
Sticks.
The sticks, and so he puts in a killer manhole or something like that, and or a Siberian tiger trap, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. That's
And he puts like sharpened poles into a big pit that he makes in the mud, and then covers it up with ground cover. And then whenever Zaroff comes, one of his best hounds falls in and gets killed and impaled on the poles. And then he manages at some point to escape, like, through the sea, right?
Yeah. He like escapes. He starts like he kept beelining it, and then he ended up to the water, and then he was like, well, might as well just swim in the water. So then he swam all around the water, all the way back to his castle.
Yeah, and this was a cool point too, because like I don't know if this is what I felt like. I think I did. It was like whenever he jumped off, I was like, well, he might as well, like, he just would rather kill himself than die at the hands of the general. And
he just didn't want to prove the girl wrong.
Yeah,
right.
he just didn't want to play the game, right? And so he jumped off and killed himself, and I was like, oh man. And then the general ends up going back to his castle and having a very sullen meal. Really, his mind is more occupied with like how difficult it will be to replace Yvonne, his servant, and how kind of good the hunt was and everything, and like when the next hunter might be that will wash up onto his shore. And then he returns to his bed to take a siesta, to go to sleep. And what's waiting for him is none other than Rainsford.
In his bedroom.
Yeah. He's dripping wet. He's sopping.
Just picture his silhouette beside the window, just staring at him as he's walking into his bed.
Yes. So, this was like really crazy. And he's just dripping wet. And I really feel like I almost kind of want to read from the story here, and kind of just do this last part, because this last part of the story is really, really good. Like, I feel like this is the part where it just gave me chills and I couldn't even handle it. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So let's see. General Zaroff had an exceedingly good dinner in his great paneled dining hall that evening. With it, he had a bottle of Paul Roger, and half a bottle of Chambertin. Two slight annoyances kept him from perfect enjoyment. One was the thought that it would be difficult to replace Ivan. The other was that his quarry had escaped him. Of course, the American hadn't played the game, so thought the general as he tasted his after-dinner liqueur. In his library he read, to soothe himself, from the works of Marcus Aurelius, which, by the way, for those of you who haven't read Marcus Aurelius, that's like kind of funny, because Marcus Aurelius is like one of the famous Stoic. He was one of the greatest Roman emperors that ever lived for about 16 years, and anyway, he's the general is nothing close to Marcus Aurelius, so it's funny to see him reading his material. A person like General Zaroff would be reading Marcus Aurelius, So anyway, I digress. At 10, he went up to his bedroom. He was deliciously tired, which is a very odd adverb to be using there.
Maybe he was like full of himself or something. He was like
very deliciously tired. Yeah, he had ate his fill, and now he's ready to take an insulin nap. He said to himself as he locked himself in, there was a little moonlight, so before turning on his light, he went to the window and looked down at the courtyard. He could see the great hounds, and he called, "Better luck next time," to them. Then he switched on the light. A man who had been hiding in the curtains of the bed was standing there. "Rainsford!" screamed the general. "How in God's name did you get here?" "I swam," said Rainsford. "I found it quicker than walking through the jungle." The general sucked in his breath and smiled. "I congratulate you," he said. "You have won the game." Rainsford did not smile. "I am still a beast at bay," he said in a low, hoarse voice. "Get ready, General Zaroff." The general made one of his deepest bows. "I see," he said. "Well, splendid. One of us is to furnish a repast for the hounds. The other will sleep in this very excellent bed. On guard, Rainsford." He had never slept in a better bed, Rainsford decided. So
I guess we can assume.
Yeah.
Or actually, I don't know if we can assume. Maybe he already slept in his bed before. No.
I honestly feel like it would have been better for the author to have like let it lay at Zaroff's line, which is on guard, Rainsford, and then that's it, and then ended with an ellipses. Like, wouldn't that? I feel like that would have been way better.
Intense. Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
Cameron says, "I love when I'm deliciously tired." that feeling when you're excited to go to bed because it's gonna feel so good.
That's how I feel too sometimes, especially when I've been out fishing till like 4 a.m. Oh man,
with the boys at 4 a.m.
Yeah. So that's the whole story, man. That's the Most Dangerous Game, written by
Richard Connell.
Yeah, Richard Connell. Between 1893 Oh no, I don't know. I guess Richard Connell lived from 1893 to 1949. So I
I
don't
think
know
he wrote it
when.
in 1925. That's what I found.
1925. Okay.
1925 or 1926.
Yeah. So, Richard Connell. Wow, what a story! What a story! Oh my gosh, I'm really still in awe of the whole thing. Like those last lines are some of the best dialogue that I've really ever read.
Man, it was intense.
Like when I read that, it chills went down my spine. I was just like felt like I was watching like a really immersive action movie, and I had no idea what was going to happen next. And it was just very satisfying that like Rainsford didn't just escape, but he came back to kill the general. Wow, what a power move.
Yes.
Oh gosh. So I guess we should cover the themes first before we get into the movie comparison. The theme obviously was covered and established, just basically spoon-fed us and got it out of the way immediately, was whether it's moral or not to hunt and kill big game or any game for sport. For me, I don't feel like the story did a very good job of like getting that message across. I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
Nah. Yeah, I agree. Why do you think that?
I don't know. Well, just like I don't know that it was like the big selling point, because the whole idea was that like you shouldn't kill big game, that it's wrong to hunt them. But then, like in the very last part of the story,
He kills big game.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, Rainsford could have very well just like attempted to escape, but instead, he legitimately came back and hunted General Zaroff, and he hunted him back. He made the hunted, the hunter, the hunted, right? And so he just kind of switched it. No matter what, it turns out that Rainsford was in the end the ultimate huntsman. So, wow. I mean, and so for me, with that happening, I don't feel like there's a strong like argument. Like it might even just be saying that like hunting big game, like reaffirming the statement that there are two people in the world, the hunted and the hunter, right?
Yes, that's probably
So, like if you don't read carefully, you would just think that it's like a pro animal thing, but I don't really think it is. I think it's like the world sucks. There are murderers and people who will take advantage of you and kill you, and then there are people who are going to be taken advantage of and killed. So, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just like that. This is how the world is.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, honestly, it does suck, because I mean, what's to stop a General Zaroff from saying, "Well, chap, I've got a huge Cossack here, and you're gonna take these khakis and this food and this knife and these moccasins, and you're gonna go march into the jungle, and I'm gonna come try and kill you." Like, how do you even stop that from happening?
There's nothing you can do except join them.
Yeah.
You can't beat them, join them.
Exactly, yeah. And you don't want to you would never want to sacrifice your own morals. And that's part of the irony and the hypocrisy of General Zaroff reading Marcus Aurelius just before he is killed as a result of his murderous habits, because Marcus Aurelius was one of those those Stoic philosophers who bolstered the idea that virtue is enough, and that you shouldn't worry about anything that's outside of your control, but rather what you can control with your own spirit and your own character. And so General Zaroff was undoubtedly falling short of all of the Stoic philosophies.
He was literally going against.
Yeah.
He was his objective, his invented animal goes against his
yeah,
literature.
like he like sunk deep hooks into the part of the philosophy that's like, yeah, we don't need to like, you know, be upset about a lot of things. And he's like, yeah, I can use this portion to like not feel bad about the people I murder. And then he just like cherry picked that and then left everything else alone. with
Guys,
the
you're gonna love my idea.
yeah.
Been reading a lot of Marcus Aurelius.
So, all right, let's get into the movie discussion, I guess.
Oh baby.
Overall impressions, David. What do you think?
I don't like the movie.
Me either.
It adds various elements that are not good or not faithful to the book, and for the worse.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was terrible, and we don't like. I was thinking about it too while I was watching the movie. I even had a hard time watching it because it was like very uninteresting, because it was just so terrible. Like everything was awful, and of course, like the level, like the quality of acting and production and effects and everything that we have for our movies today are not even comparable to what was being made in the 40s or the 50s for this movie. It was 61.
That film was 1932.
Holy shoot. Yeah, so 1932. They're not even comparable for today versus 1930s. So but what I was thinking about was that there are several different stories that I like a lot, and they're my favorite stories that I reread all the time, like at least like a couple times a year. And one of them is Beowulf, right? And Beowulf is a poem, a long form poem that was written by an unknown author a long time ago. It was almost lost, and there have been tons of stories made, tons of movies made from that poem, right? And so some of them suck really bad, obviously, because most movie adaptations suck. But then some of them, like the 2007 animation.
That was the one with like a lot of gore in it.
Yes, tons of gore and everything. So they made some very key changes that were not in keeping with the poem at all, like huge changes. But the story itself had such value, and it was, one, well done, despite being very cinematized, but two, had like these archetypal and like ancient icons inside of it that communicated such very deep and meaningful messages and themes that all of the changes that weren't within keeping of the poem were justified, right? So in those circumstances, it was totally fine to me that they had changed so much about the story, because the animation, the film, was good, was its own form of masterpiece. So this is not the case with this film. This film sucks. It was terrible.
It's not great. I didn't hate it, but knowing the original story it's not good, because first of all, they add a love interest.
Yeah.
Which is just garbage.
That's a really common thing that they do with these older stories. Like, we just did a conversation. You can go watch our discussions over The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. Both films superficially graft in a love interest, and it's a common practice for book to movie adaptations. So, David, I'll let you just take away the first part of the movie stuff. What's wrong with it? What was different?
Oh, here we go. Okay, so first of all, there was the boat in the beginning of the movie just got destroyed, and everyone died. Everyone died but Rainsford. And meanwhile, the boat in the short story, everyone's alive and just didn't know. Like, they just couldn't save him. Everyone lived. But of course, the people who made this movie had to kill off literally everyone, so you have to feel alone with this character, like isolated, like you're truly lost. Meanwhile, you could have just done it like the original, where he just falls off the boat a stupid way. But no. And then there's way less foreshadowing in the book than there is in the story than there is in the film. Because in the film, it's just like so obvious what they're trying to do, and that's why I don't like the film.
Yeah, and there's just really no reason for it either. Like, I can't see why they would skimp out on it. First of all, like, they chose to blow the ship up, literally explode it.
Like, why? Like, why do you like? that's not even loyal. That's the first 5 minutes not even loyal to the book anymore. It's over.
And
It's
it
over.
costs a ton of, I guarantee you it costs a ton of money to blow that ship up.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know what the director was thinking there.
And to like have to do all the acting with all the special effects and stuff, and like once you get into like the really cheesy sequence whenever the ship is blown up and there's like 3 dudes left like floating on the,
and it's a shark. It's a shark that takes them away. No kidding. Like you see like some guy in a suit with a fin, and then he's just pulling them down like so over the top. It's already Hollywood.
The dialogue there was really funny too, because
they're getting
yeah, he says, it got me, and then it pulls him down.
Yeah, it got me, and he goes down after. The thing is, like, the dude, Rainsford is literally 3 feet away from the other guys, and he just swims away to the island like nothing happened.
And it was another one of those like Titanic door situations where like just get up onto the door. Like
there was like a decent hinge you could have lifted yourself up on, but but Hollywood.
Yeah, super dumb. Like I don't know, like clearly these are mostly from what I've been like reading or watching different documentaries on making films and stuff, for book adaptations at least. Usually producers are more adamant about doing like more Hollywood scenes and actions. So they're like, oh, what happens in the book? And they're like, well, he kind of just accidentally falls off the ship and then gets left behind. And they say,
hear me out. You're going to love this one.
We're going to blow the ship up. We're going to blow it up. And then sharks are going to eat people. And then he's going to go to the island. That's good enough. And I'm like, man, no. How about we pay more money, we save that money, and we put it toward better actors and actresses and
excellent actors in this film. Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
They're terrible, all of them.
I couldn't have chosen probably a worse combo. I think I'd rather watch Cats than this movie again.
Uncensored, so we could see the cat buttholes.
Yes. I'd still watch it. And anyways, next? So, and then the first thing you notice is whenever he's swimming to the island in the book, it was it was gunshots that you would hear, but in the film you only hear dogs. So already and then in the book you see that, oh, he shot something, he's just a hunter. So you have no sense of foreshadowment. I don't know if that's a word. You have no sense of foreshadowing that he's gonna like kill you, but you hear these like dogs, like really really loud dangerous dogs in the movie, and that kind of gives it off that it's kind of eerie, and it's way more eerily like set in the movie, because the castle's not even a castle. It just looks like a big silo. It's like not even intimate, like it's
pretty lame. And I think the only foreshadowing at that point for the book was whenever he can't identify the animal that's screaming. So in the book he hears an animal that he can't identify, which I don't think necessarily, like I feel like you'd be able to identify a man's scream.
But if it's something you can't like, if you don't know what it is, then maybe it'll give the person who's reading more of a sense of guessing that it's an animal that's going to kill you.
Yeah, it's definitely not as strong a foreshadowing as in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just telling you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
and then another small thing that I thought was interesting was whenever he knocks on the door in the film, he knocked 3 times instead of 2, and there was a direct answer. It was just him there, and it wasn't just him like flowing open the door in the book.
It was a slow open.
Yeah,
he just slowly opened the door. Yeah, and those might be considered like nitpicking parts about like, whether it was true to the book or not. But I feel like whenever we're dealing with short stories and we're turning it into like just over an hour of film, I mean, there's really not a ton of excuse to not stay true to every detail of the book. I mean, you have room for it. It's a short story. You can read it in 45 minutes. We can put an hour into it. And also, we're about to get into the biggest discrepancies between the book and the movie, right? We haven't even got to the worst parts yet.
It's not, no. There's more people. It's not just in the book. It's Ivan, Zaroff, and Rainsford, and that's all you need for a good story.
Yeah.
But no, they had to add like 13 different people.
Like a ton, yeah. I mean, they had so he opens the door. Yvonne is standing there, and then he meets Zaroff, and Zaroff is this kind of like he's like way different than I thought he was gonna be, and he has a terrible accent, and I don't know if I'm looking for like that stereotypical Russian accent, but I just didn't sound. I don't even know what kind of accent he had. Maybe it's good, and I just don't know what a good accent sounds like.
It sounds like he was born in Russia and raised in like Norway with English.
yes, it's terrible. I have no idea. It was awful. It was very unsettling. You have no idea where he's from. If he didn't say he was a Cossack, you wouldn't have known. And so yeah, then we get introduced from that point to several other to two other people that are there in the castle with them, a woman and a man. These are brother and sister, and the brother is like getting really drunk, and so at this point there's no resemblance between the book and the movie at this point. Like it's just so different now that it doesn't look anything like it at all.
When I saw that, I was like, how are they going to reenact that conversation of, hey, I hunt a smart, like a animal with reason, and that conversation never happened because it's just impossible to have a conversation that intimate with so many extra people in the setting.
Yeah.
And then actually, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Just that I just don't know like exactly why. I mean, they had to enter the brother and sister in because they wanted a romance, which just doesn't make any sense at all. I feel like he would have totally got killed in the future sequences having the romance, and it's not even like they made out or anything. Like I want to see them mac, you know. Like I didn't want to see them at all. I was hoping she died so that he had more purpose. I was hoping that she died so that there was more sense of like he was more frantic about. Like he didn't even swim around the island, did he? I don't even remember. He fell off a waterfall. I remember that. Yeah, it's just really confounded at this point, and like the series of events that unfold inside of the book are a little complex. But at this point, it's just getting really kind of weird. So, quick summarization. He gets introduced to the brother and sister. The drunk brother gets shown into the General Zaroff's, which now he's not General, he's Count. So he's Count Zaroff. That's more like, I don't know, what's it called? Like a Dracula type villain now. And so the drunk brother gets shown to the trophy room that is hidden. The reason it's hidden is because these are human trophies, right? The men that he's killed on his island, he has like stuffed and then put on his walls or whatever. And so the brother gets taken out hunting, obviously gets killed. Supposedly he was sober whenever he went out and was about his wits.
There's no freaking way.
There's no way he was sober by that point. I think that he just killed him.
And then that's what makes me think that he was portrayed as a disingenuous person in the film, which he shouldn't have because he was a genuine person in the story.
Right, which is the biggest problem with the movie that I have. And I totally agree with you, is that Count Zaroff is like genuinely evil, whereas he's like an unlawful evil person. Well, he'll lie to people, he'll take advantage of them whenever like he doesn't have a good set of rules and laws as a villain to work with. He's not true to his word, and he's genuinely just evil. Whereas General Zaroff in the book had a set of rules and regulations for the game that he wanted to play, and he genuinely cared about hunting, and that was what he cared about most, more than people. And so he just operated according to that. And so you felt like he was a better person, just kind of like a little psychotic, and murderous.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
so then we have a sequence after that guy gets brought out to be hunted by Zaroff, where Rainsford is sleeping snug in his bed, and then his door gets opened, and it's the woman, and they have this like weird conversation with one another, and then they eventually end up investigating to try and find her brother because she's worried about him, and then they find him being brought back into the trophy room after they discover
I wonder
all of
who
the
it is. Like,
corpses.
she's like, unfold the face. Like, what do you think? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's just a random stranger.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And so they end up finding her brother's dead body as it's being brought into the trophy room by more servants. Also, Yvonne, let me just say this. Yvonne was not as large and imposing as he was supposed to be. Like,
No,
he
not
just
at
looked
all.
like a regular dude.
Yeah, he looks like you.
Yeah, he just looked like a regular guy. So that was whack. And so the servants bring in, there's one more than there was in the book, maybe nitpicky. And then they get into this tussle with Zaroff, and he decides that he's going to take the woman with him into the jungle, Rainsford is, so that they can both be hunted, as if that's a good idea. Because Zaroff already said that he's not going to kill the woman. And so they go out into the jungle, and everything gets condensed into a day rather than 3 days.
Exactly, and he's not even a survivor anymore. He's a protector because he's literally with someone who he's obviously going to be trying to protect.
Yeah. Yep. And so that just doesn't make a ton of sense. I feel like, one, that's like putting your prey at a huge disadvantage to where now they have to he can't worry just about preserving himself or killing Zaroff. Now he has to worry about preserving the woman as well and protecting her. So and then so basically they have like a series of things. They end up hiding in a cave. They almost get shot by a bow and arrow. Zaroff says that he'll hunt them like jaguars if they're going to act like jaguars. And then at some point, they go and set up. I don't know. What do they retreat into, like a waterfall or something?
Yes, yeah, they go into the waterfall where the dogs. Wait, no. Before Yvonne dies from the spike, right? From the
Yeah,
spike.
yeah. He gets spiked and killed, which was, I guess, accurate because that's what happened in the book.
You got a donation.
Ooh, really?
I think so.
Let me see. I have not seen it. It's hard to check this because my activity feed. I don't know. I'm not seeing a donation, but thank you for the donation. It didn't show up. I don't know why it didn't show up.
Maybe this overlay, you don't have the thing on it. Lazy is always looking for attention no matter the stream. Well.
So, so yeah, we'll take a look at that at the end. So yeah, and then they just they get attacked by a dog. Rainsford does, and then the Count attempts to shoot him with a bow and arrow. That's another difference, is that the Count doesn't use a small .22 pistol. He uses a bow and arrow. So, don't know why they just arbitrarily decided to change that. And then, so instead of shooting Rainsford, he shoots the dog, I guess, and he goes off the side of the waterfall, and they assume that Rainsford is dead. But then, of course, the same kind of action plays itself out.
It's just that same over-the-top kind of dramatic Hollywood effect where he falls off of the waterfall with the dog, and you're like, "Oh my God, did he die?" And then obviously he's gonna live. Like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna just work out that the girl that she's not even the main character.
Duh. Like, I don't know, like, there's no, at no point in the film, and maybe it's because we've read the story already, but at no point did I feel like I was like, what's gonna happen, you know? Zaroff makes his way back to his castle with the woman in hand and his one extra servant, and then has his dinner or whatever, and like plays some dramatic piano. They added that to his repertoire as well. He's a pianist now.
It's so unnecessary.
And it was very fake too. You could tell he wasn't even playing the piano. It was
He
like,
was just his okay, wait, hold on. His hands were like this, like doing this. You could see like a little bit of arm movement. And then it's like an orchestra just making an entire like sequence.
yeah, it was dumb. It was so stupid. Like, you could clearly tell that it wasn't him. And so he plays a bit of sullen piano, and then he has like a meal or whatever, and then he goes back into his room. And then this is like the kind of the sequence here, the action, the physical positioning was not as good as it was in the book. Like in this one, in the movie, Rainsford comes through the door. He's not waiting for Zaroff in his room already, but instead he comes into his door and then closes it and locks it and makes Zaroff aware of his presence. So it doesn't really like take him off guard as much because it's kind of a usual noise happening. Like maybe it's one of his servants opening and closing the door. Whereas before, when he was waiting for him in his room, it like spooked him, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, and then they got into a tussle. I did appreciate the fight because the fighting looked a little realistic. Like, it just looked like real scrappy and like gross, kind of like real fights are, you know?
Yeah, I'll give him that one. I like the fight wasn't horrible. It's just it was just like music over it, and there was no sound effects in the fight. It was just people hitting each other over music. So
yeah, there were no like groove, groove, poof, poof, you know, we want but yeah, I mean, despite like the lack of Foley, I feel like it was pretty good because I mean, it wasn't like a terrible Hollywood fight like you see in like Fast and the Furious, where like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson like punches Vin Diesel in the face 45 times and their face never swells. But it was more of like a realistic, like, get punched a few times, kind of out of it now, lay on the floor in a really awkward position, you know? And like, I was like, yeah, you know, that's kind of more accurate about how fights go down. So yeah, I don't know, it wasn't that bad. And then
of course the guards come in. The unnecessary characters have to come in and distract him while Zaroff is recovering from the wounds he's gotten from the ultimate hunter, Rainsford.
yeah, and I don't know if like he kills Zaroff, doesn't he?
No. Kinda. It's unknown, I think, because at the end of the movie, Zaroff just falls off a ledge. But I'm assuming he's probably dead. I mean, no one's coming to help him, so.
Yeah, he's probably just dead. So probably just
the way
like
he killed the way he killed the people there was ridiculous. He like backwards suplexed. It looked like something out of Mortal Kombat. It was crazy.
It's so weird. Yeah. So that was a really weird. I mean, the ending shot was all right of like the boat and everything. But I don't remember him ever getting the maiden, like the woman. Did he? Did he get the woman and leave?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he grabbed the woman and left. Of course he did. Why wouldn't he grab the woman and leave? They live happily ever after. And then, actually, to be fair, that cinematography at the end of the movie was.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The very ending shot was pretty nice. So the very few things that we can give this movie was probably the fight scene and that one very last shot, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's all I can give it.
What do you give out of 5 stars? What do you give the film?
Probably like a solid like 1. I don't know. I'll give it a 2.5 or something like that. Cuz I mean, it's not terrible, and if I had not read the book, would have been okay.
Yeah. I'd give it a 2.5. I'd give the story a 4.75 or a 4.5.
Oh yeah, I mean it's close.
Excellent.
It's almost hitting. The book is almost hitting a 5. Like the short story, almost a 5, because it's just such a classic and good story. And for those of you who like don't really or find it difficult to read or don't like to read long books or like are distracted in some way, if you want to read good stories in just like 45 minutes, some of these short stories will really get the job done. Like these things pack a punch. They're great.
I've never actually read a full nonfiction book in my or fiction book in my life.
Really?
Yeah, I've never actually.
Holy cow!
I almost can't handle it because they're so long, like 300 pages.
We're gonna have to try. I'm gonna try and see if we can rig up some kind of like I don't know. We'll rig it up some way to where you can join in on the quad conversations for the book club, and we'll get you in on our next book.
Yes.
And have you come in weekly or bi-weekly or whatever.
I don't know if I can read.
If you don't have any, you could probably sneak it in. Are you doing coursework right now?
I am not. I'm just working at my job.
What job do you have? You make sandwiches.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. I was mowing my lawn today, and I was thinking about I was like, yeah, man, doing some work while old David is doing some work, and and I was like, I wonder what job he has, and I was envisioning what I could see you doing, and I was like, this man is making sandwiches.
Don't say it was that. No, dude, I don't look like that. Please, no.
That's really what I thought you were doing. So that's funny that I got that one right on the head.
I work in a deli department, so in the morning I make sandwiches, and then in the afternoon I do I serve more customers and stuff.
That's cool. That's really cool. Is it like I don't know. You don't have a United because it's America, but
United.
Yeah, or
it's called Metro. It's a Quebec store.
You live in Quebec?
No, but it's a Quebec-based store.
Oh, thank goodness
franchise.
You don't live in Quebec.
Oh, but I mean, I live literally. I was born like 10 minutes from Quebec.
Doesn't everyone hate Quebec? Or just the French there?
They like what Quebec looks like.
I hear the French are really mean there.
I hear that too. I'm gonna yeah, no one likes them.
Gosh.
No one likes Quebec. The only people who like Quebec is Quebec. That's why they have their own party. Their own political party, and they win every single time. They're the highest voted in Quebec, obviously.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like this was a pretty good conversation, and it's cool for us to be able to talk about the entire book all in one conversation, as well as the movie comparisons. So the next short stories that we will be discussing will be determined by you guys. So if you'd like to recommend a short story for us to read, if you can manage it, find a short story that is widely renowned as classic, and or is just really good, and also has a film adaptation, because those are cool. If not, we'll just talk about the short story without the film or something.
We're totally doing Cat in the Hat, aren't we?
Oh my gosh, there's too many Cat in the Hat stories. Cat in the Hat. I actually never read Cat in the Hat growing up.
Well, I mean, he is what the title is. He's just a cat in the hat.
I can't remember. I can't remember if I did read Cat in the Hat or not. I'm sure it was good.
I remember reading Green Eggs and Ham. That's pretty much it.
I also remember that. That's the one. That's the one Dr. Seuss. I think I did read a few Dr. Seuss books, but none of them has stuck with me. I could never tell you that I remember this book. I remember maybe Fraggle Rock books.
Ooh,
remember Fraggle Rock?
Don't know. I never read as a child.
Yeah, it was their little kid books. They're kind of creepy. About these little Fraggle creatures that are all hairy and stuff. They kind of look like Muppets. They kind of look like that blue Muppet, that has the big nose and stuff. And they just kind of live under Fraggle Rock. They live under rocks in the underground, and they're kind of creepy.
And that's
so. All right.
He's asking, what about erotica or fan fiction?
I don't know. Are there some Fabio short stories?
Ooh.
There's actually some really good like psychological and like archetypal stuff that you can extract from female romance novels. So like I know Dr. Peterson talks a lot about how like the top 5 female erotic heroes or romantic interests are always like pirates, werewolf men, doctors, I think it's bikers, and one other that I can't remember. But yeah, so those are like the ones, and those are just like the typical like bad boy, like they can, you know, that they are capable of like killing people. So that's why the good guys always lose. The last one is sandwich makers. Yeah, that's the 5th one that I left out. It was a sandwich maker.
Dollar, come on, man.
All right, guys. Dollar, thank you so much for coming here and talking with us. Lazy douche, thank you. Hammered man, thank you for the follow, and thank you so much for the donation. I will like personally message you once I find out exactly what the donation was. So, yeah.
You said 25.
It was what?
25, I think.
25 what?
Dollars.
No way.
I mean, that's what he said.
Oh my gosh. That's what I received? Freaking thank you so much. I just like, I saw this on my PayPal and I was like, how did I get this? I was like, I just don't understand. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
There you go, man. You can buy books and stuff now.
Dude, yes. I can pay my credit card debt now. I got a credit card actually. Did I tell you that? I got a credit card.
No.
Yeah, I want to start building credit. So
yeah. Delaney wants a credit card, but they won't let her get one. I don't know why.
Tell her to go get a what's called a secured credit card. So or you could start with like a secured loan. So you'll just like save up some money and then I think it's like a minimum of $100 for my Bank of America. And then once you put that money down, then you just have it and it's on the card, and then that's like the maximum amount you can spend on it. But after a year, then it just goes to a regular credit card and you can get your money back. So like my credit card has $1,000 security on it, so I put down $1,000 and then that stays there for a year, and then so next year I'll be able to free that money up and then use the credit card like a regular credit card. So
nice.
Yeah, and then my credit scores will be good.
Having $1,000 in the first place, holy, couldn't be me, dude. Couldn't be me,
bro. It's locked up. I don't have $1,000 right now. It's just like, because I can't. I could extract it if I wanted to, but then I would lose the credit card and I wouldn't have the credit and everything. So
I went back to work last month, and I still haven't got paid from work. So I'm like dying. I have no food.
Do you get paid bi-weekly?
No, I get paid weekly, and they still haven't paid me. Because I was on a leave of absence, so apparently they have to like file forms to say I'm back, and they still haven't paid me.
Call them. Talk to your manager. That's unacceptable.
I did, and he was like, you have to be patient. I was like, patient? I'm dying. I have no
Do
food.
you understand how much money Delaney has to pay to keep me afloat right now?
Do you know how much OnlyFans she has to shoot because of me?
Oh my gosh, that's my worst nightmare, man. Worst nightmare.
Okay, how many figures would your girlfriend have to be making on her OnlyFans for you to accept it?
Dude, I wouldn't.
No, there's always a number.
There's not a number. There's really not.
$1 trillion.
No, I really wouldn't. This $1 trillion is not worth it to me.
Holy man.
First of all, hold on. Is it my girlfriend?
Yes.
I'm not going to marry her?
Just lewds, dude. Not nudes. Lewds.
What the hell are lewds?
It's like bra and like underwear, not like, not naked. It's just you
If
know.
I
It's like
wasn't gonna marry her and she
it's
was
like she's
giving
wearing a
me a lot
swimsuit.
of this money, sure, like $1,000.
Okay, how about you marry her?
No, then no.
You-
No.
what about in a bathing suit?
uh, I I don't know. The whole idea is that behind the whole OnlyFans thing is that there will be men pleasuring themselves sexually to the images of her body. And that
Man, don't say it like that. Don't. That sounds bad like that.
well, that's what it is. That's what it is. And that's put like really nice. That's like not bad at all. So yeah, no, that's a no-go for me. That's a no for me, dog.
I don't blame you, dude. I would say no as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't crack me. You can't make me. I read Marcus Aurelius. Okay, a virtue is enough.
Oh man, that's amazing. Okay.
All right.
Wow.
Well, on that note, we're gonna go ahead and bring the stream to an end. Thank you guys so much for coming and watching with us. We love that you could join us. Thank you so much for that donation. That is really, really generous. We will be funding the book club with that money, and my debt. So, thanks for the follows, the chats, and the lurks, and we will see you guys hopefully this Saturday afternoon. We'll be talking about King Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This should be our last book discussion before our movie to book comparison, and then after that we'll be drawn for a new book. So yeah, I think the only other video that you can look forward to is probably going to be a very short Farewell to Arms versus Farewell to Arms book versus movie comparison that I'll be doing solo, and then yeah, we'll see. Recommend some books. We'll see you guys later. Love you so much, and say bye, David.
Bye, guys. See you later.